Hi, welcome to Filmaginations, a podcast about your favorite TV series and films. Every few weeks, I will cover a different one and take a deep dive into what happens on the screen and what my favorite moments are. Hello, and welcome back to discussing a Heated Rivalry. Today we'll start with talking about episode 3, which focuses on Scott Hunter and his relationship with Kip. At first, we see Scott in the meet-cute with his boyfriend-to-be. Kip works at a smoothie place where Scott ends up after his run. From their very first interaction, we can tell they are into each other. Later we see Kip at a pub with his friends, insisting on putting hockey on TV to watch Scott, now that he knows who he is. And at that moment he assumes Scott can't be gay. But somehow next time we see Kip working, Scott is there again. He walks in right when Kip is reading about him in the newspaper. He orders a smoothie and leaves, but not without subtly flirting. Then we see Kip with his friend, Elena, in the same bar as before, discussing Kip's crush on Scott. And of course Kip changes his schedule to work on Saturday, when he knows Scott might come by. And he sure does, this time staying inside. And they eventually strike up a conversation. And, slightly hesitating, Scott asks Kip to come to his game. I'm glad he did. And when the time comes, Scott very sweetly nods and waves at him from the ice. This episode is focused on Scott and Kip, but their lives are somewhat intertwined with Rosanov and Hollander, so we get a short clip of Scott losing with Ilya and the legendary joke referring to Ilya's hookup with Shane in a hotel room next to Scott's. And then a short clip of Scott interacting with Shane. They're on the ice, and Scott is starting to sound like him. And there it is again, ahead of Scott knowing exactly what's going on with Shane and Ilya. That makes Shane mad, and they start fighting, eventually the whole team fighting on the ice. And of course Kip is watching that on TV. Now we see Kip working, catering food at an event where Scott Hunter is a guest. And the first thing he does is throw a tray of food onto the ground at Scott's feet, of course. He panics because he really needs the money and he can't afford to get fired. However, he collects himself in the end and goes back to work. He catches Scott standing at a party not far from him, and Scott winks at him. I like that Scott clears the air between them a bit later and asks Kip for dinner after the party. And how eager he is to meet with Kip, and how he doesn't mind showing that. I like the nervousness surrounding them, typical when you meet someone you like. When they get to the Mexican place, there is a huge line, and Kip tries to suggest that they don't really have to do that. But then Scott invites him over, taking a chance. Kip agrees, and we see him enjoying Scott's apartment, a little too much, focusing on the wrong thing. But then Scott takes his shirt off, and Kip shifts his interest immediately. They go to the bedroom, and I love the way Scott says, "I can't stop thinking about you." They have sex, and at some point Kip starts dressing up, ready to leave. But Scott asks him to stay. When Scott wakes up, Kip is making him breakfast, and sweetly rambles about being sorry for snooping around the kitchen. Scott just walks up to him and lifts him up by his ass and carries him to bed, asking if he can fuck him. Only after that they have breakfast in the kitchen, and Scott throws a lot at Kip. He's never invited anyone over to his house. He can't come out yet. But he really likes Kip and he wants him in his life. He, very directly, tells him just how much. And Kip is a bit lost for words, but in the end he assures Scott that he'll stay. When Scott comes home after practice, Kip is actually there, as promised. So he gets on him and starts kissing him happily. And then we get glimpses of their lives, them being happy together, but also Kip denying to other people that he has a boyfriend. Yeah, right. His friends and his coworker for sure believe him. But it's all because Scott is not out yet. They are so domestic with each other, and it's a bit wild that they just started living together, without properly getting to know each other, but what do I know? The first hiccup comes when they go out to buy some art and Scott is panicked that someone will find out who he is, and that they're together. And it was hard to watch him silence Kip. They get home and Scott apologizes but feels shame about his behavior. Kip comforts him then. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, but we get another sweet moment between them later, when Kip buys Scott socks that look like his smoothie. We see them kiss one last time, and we get a brief glance at Scott wearing the socks for his match. And he does really well during that game. Coincidence? A problem starts showing after more than 2 months, when Kip is still unable to be fully honest with his dad and with his friends and in general share with the world that he has someone. And it hurts. He goes to a gala in a suit that Scott bought for him. And Scott approaches him and Elena at some point, and the truth that she knows comes out. There's an obvious heaviness in the air after that. And not long later, Elena opens Scott's eyes to what Kip has been unable to say. That Kip is miserable. He doesn't want to be kept a secret. But he loves him, so he is committed to putting up with it. But it's killing him. And it's hard for Scott to swallow that. That the person he loves is suffering because of him. Elena is great with words. What she said really made an impact on Scott. Once they're in Scott's apartment, Kip asks Scott to go to his birthday party at the bar, but he declines. He can't do that. Not yet. And they have a very important conversation about keeping what they have a secret. I'm glad Kip decided to finally share that it's hard for him, and that he will go home that night. It needed to be said. And then we get to hear Scott's speech from the party, and during that, watch Kip struggling with his decision and what comes next. In the end, he comes home to his dad, crying. And then we see him celebrating his birthday with his friends, Scott watching from the outside. And we are left with Scott wearing socks from Kip during his next game, and there is that. We don't see any more of their story, not until episode 5, of course. Okay, now let's have a look at episode 4, and I'll start by saying thank you for making Ilya present the previously on. That was really good. We begin with a quick game between Montreal and Boston, and I just love seeing them play, especially against each other. And, as I mentioned in the previous episode, I love their face-offs. Now we are hit with a summary of their time in between in 2014 and 2016. Their texting has definitely evolved. They are both reaching out and are definitely more glued to their phones. We can even see Shane checking his phone while reading, and Ilya being on his phone when he's having fun in the club. Later we also see Shane texting Ilya while having dinner with Hayden's family, or when he's shooting an ad, and Ilya rejecting a girl in the club and sitting by the bar talking to Shane. I'm glad they gave us those little moments because they might be brief on screen, but they mean so much. When you have a crush on someone, you just can't stop talking to them. So even though they are not meeting a lot in person, they spend the time in between, busy time I might add, texting. I wish they discovered phone calls or video calls existed a bit earlier, but I'm just glad they did at all. We also see them spending their free time in very different ways. They are both training, but apart from that, they have very different ideas of fun. Shane is reading, doing ads, and being boring, as Ilya would say. On the other hand, Ilya is drinking and having fun with Svetlana in the clubs. And the best detail of them all is how they check their schedules to see when they'll be playing against each other. And of course, they text about it. It's such a great way of showing they are constantly thinking about each other. And I think it goes without saying, but the scenes where they cut from them pushing each other into the boards to them fucking are diabolical. Someone needs a raise. I also love the special look Ilya has for Shane when he impresses him, and how we jump from that to the blowjob in the shower. Nice. I love how so many times we get parallels in the show. In the previous episodes, we saw Shane smiling at Ilya winning the cup. And now it's Shane's time to shine, and Ilya is watching him on TV, smiling and being proud of him. We get another reference to the previous episodes when Shane texts Ilya about a dark, scary alley in Montreal. Their banter is so on. I have to say, as we mostly see Ilya in his hockey gear, or shirtless, I was surprised how cute and soft he looked in his light blue blouse when they hook up in Shane's apartment. Did you also notice that? He looked different, but so good. I laughed out loud during the locker room scene after Montreal won the cup again. The way they're just spraying champagne on Shane, and I can't be the only one that was thinking of something else during that scene. But anyway, it's beautiful how they are celebrating as a team, but of course Shane has his phone in his hand and is answering Ilya regarding their win. Nothing says I like you like the instinct to text that person immediately when something happens. And between all of the sweet and happy moments, we also, very briefly, see Ilya taking care of his sick father in Russia. And after the quick catch-up of the summers, we land in October 2016. I'm glad they included a longer scene between Hayden and Shane because we can see he is actually a friend, not just a teammate. It's nice that Shane has someone like that. The awkward part of it all is how Shane does have someone, in a way, but it's not a girl, and it's a secret, so he needs to pretend. Pretend he's straight, and that he hasn't been fooling around for years with Ilya Rozanov. I don't know how Shane managed to keep it a secret for so long, especially from his friends and family. It's been, 6 or 7 years now? But the truth will come out eventually, and we'll get to that. At this point, Shane is also still considering liking girls, and possibly ending things with Ilya at some point, so he is very lost and confused. It's also very sweet to see Shane with kids and how some girls refer to Hayden's baby as Shane's baby. I can't help but wonder about Ilya and Shane's future. And now we get to one of my favorite scenes, Ilya watching Shane on TV, talking about his cottage. There is no way he just saw that by accident. He's so down for Shane. He will make fun of this documentary, but the truth is he loves that side of Shane. Boring, stable, safe, consistent. He's also never been to a place Shane truly calls home, which is the cottage he can now see on TV. It's also crazy to think how very soon Ilya will be there with Shane and how important the cottage will become. And, as I said before, I adore Svetlana. Of course she comments on Shane being hot when she sees Ilya watching him. He immediately goes, "Nope, shut it, we're going out." And now we see Svetlana and Ilya on their way to have fun, and of course Ilya is on his phone. Svetlana asks him if he's seeing anyone lately. And when he denies that there is someone serious, she asks about Jane. Because of course she noticed that he has been texting Jane for years. And just look at Ilya's face. His cold and uncaring demeanor falls a little, and he gets a bit sad, I think. Denying that whatever he has with Jane is serious. Because maybe it hit him that, sure, they've been in contact for so many years now, but he was nothing serious to Shane. We jump to Shane getting ready to meet Ilya, of course. I laughed so much at him explaining himself to Hayden. He probably thought he needed to convince Hayden that he's just seeing a friend by voicing it, but all it did was made it even more suspicious and clearly a lie. And Hayden just had to mention Lily. But come on, how could he not notice that Shane was always meeting Lily when he was in Boston? Shane is not as smooth as he thinks he is. I love how Ilya fixes his hair before answering the door. He cares so much about Shane and the fact that he's coming to his house. It's such a subtle way to show his nervousness about it. Typical when you have a crush. And of course he opened the door shirtless. Shane is also nervous, politely asking about his shoes. And it's so funny that Ilya said he doesn't have to take them off. Like he's not going to get him naked in a few minutes anyway. And Ilya never misses a chance to make fun of Shane, so he makes a joke about his interest in real estate. Before they kiss, Shane tries to ask if they should talk. But Ilya says after, and Shane doesn't even try to fight him. I love how Ilya puts Shane on the kitchen counter to be able to touch his ass. And I love how Shane wraps his legs around him. And, very smoothly, we jump to them having sex. I was wondering if they'll ever show us Shane on top, and I was so happy to see that they did. As I rewatched that scene, I thought about the intimacy of them fucking in Ilya's bed. Not in a hotel room, but in the very bed Ilya sleeps in, and in a place he calls home. After they're done, Shane would normally just dress up and leave, but Ilya is laying on the bed and tapping the space next to him, looking at still naked Shane. I like how slow and a bit unsure Shane is, walking to the bed. He covers himself and holds onto the sheet. As soon as Shane is close to Ilya, he softly kisses his arm and then his neck. Shane says he should go, but Ilya has other plans. With a shrug, showing how casual he is about this, he says, "Or you could stay." I imagine he knew for a while he'd want to ask Shane to stay that time. That he wanted to have him for longer in his home. That he was really hoping for Shane to say yes. Shane responds with a bit of panicked, "Stay?" So Ilya offers an explanation that would not require for them to dig into each other's feelings. "I'm not done with you." Shane tries to deny using Hayden as an excuse, but it doesn't work. I mean, after the way Ilya says, "Stay," borderlining or begging, he simply can't refuse. They look into each other's eyes and confirm that that's what they both want. It was one of the very first intimate moments where their meeting and conversation wasn't just about banter or sex. And something I was not expecting in that episode, and will forever haunt me, is them showing us Ilya and Shane sleeping, cuddled together. Just look at the way Ilya is resting his chin on Shane's neck, and how Shane is sleeping on Ilya's arm. Not to mention Ilya watching Shane sleep, and enjoying being so intimate with him. When Shane wakes up, Ilya pretends he's just waking up too. And I love Shane's smile when he turns to Ilya. It's beautiful to see him let go of his thoughts and be in the moment for a second. And something that was also not on my list, Shane is wearing Ilya's clothes, and drowning a bit in his shirt. So sweet. They move to the kitchen, and Ilya has Shane's ginger ale ready for him. It says so much about how much Ilya cares. He proposes making the tuna melt, and we all melted at that. Since they're still pretending they are not doing anything weird, and not by any chance close to what boyfriends do, Ilya says he can make Shane food just because he was making some for himself. I absolutely live for all those little moments that show us that Ilya wants more from Shane. But he knows Shane has a tendency to panic, so he coats it all in a dismissive manner and pretends it's nothing special. I said it once, and I'll say it again, Hudson is incredible with his facial expressions. He shows us perfectly just how much Shane is unsure of what they're doing. He's sitting in Ilya's kitchen and contemplating just leaving and escaping this very weird situation. He's unable to look at Ilya. This is a very new territory for them. Just having a meal and a casual conversation. But despite the panic he is feeling and despite the weirdness of it all, he stays, for a while longer, before it hits him too hard. They sit on Ilya's couch and proceed to watch hockey on TV. At first with their arms crossed, a bit closed off, and choosing to sit as far away from each other as possible. But then they start jerking and Shane relaxes a little, now sitting facing Ilya and asking him questions. Ilya, feeling very comfortable now, possibly because Shane doesn't look like he's going to run away, lays down a little with a hand in his pants. And I know that people commented on him touching the food later with the same hand, but come on, Shane's mouth has been all over him. He can handle that. Now let's focus on the faces and how Ilya smiles at his boring Shane. He throws that at Shane all the time, seemingly as an insult, but he loves that about him. They land on the topic of women and a girl Ilya likes, Svetlana. Shane is no longer looking at him, and he seems much less interested in the conversation. Because what do you say about your crush talking about liking someone else? On top of that, Shane is unsure about his sexuality and whether he likes women at this point. He wants to believe he does, but he has no idea. I like how the camera stayed on whoever was talking at the moment most of the time. The shot from the front was also important, to show us the distance between them. But when the camera jumps from one to another, it is more intimate and gives us a point of view from each of them. And we can see the expressions clearer. Shane asking Ilya about Svetlana being his girlfriend, and Ilya making sure Shane knows she is just a friend and a casual hookup, nothing serious. This was probably his way of telling Shane that she isn't more important than him, that he just likes the convenience of her. Shane's face when Ilya says, "I think I will find someone else," is heartbreaking. I think he received it as, "I can always replace you." But the tension of that comment and the hurt in Shane subside when Ilya adds, "But you know me, I'm lazy." And Shane says something so fucking important. "I don't know that side of you at all." Imagine Ilya being told all his life by his dad just how lazy he is. For Shane to jump in and oppose that. It was very important for Ilya to hear. More than Shane knows and realizes. The moment breaks as Ilya goes to get the food, but now when they're eating, they sit very close to each other. Ilya asks about Shane liking girls, because he wants to get to know him. He was probably hoping for Shane to share something when he was talking about Svetlana. But Shane is not good at reading hints and the subtle ways Ilya tries to communicate with him. He needs a very direct form of communication. So Ilya tries again, this time straight to the point. Love how Shane's answer to, "I never hear about you with girls," is, "It's private." Right. Because he is privately meeting so many women. Ilya has something more to say, so he tries again. He starts with, "I like girls," looking at him. But Shane is done hearing about how much Ilya likes girls, so annoyingly, he keeps his eyes on the TV. He only turns to Ilya when he adds, "But I also like you." The "lucky me" from Shane could be understood in different ways. I think it was a, "Lucky me, you include me in your sex life with all of these beautiful women, so grateful." And then Ilya jokingly adds, "Not as a person, of course, but you have a good mouth." Shane is smiling now. I think this was a safe way for that moment of telling Shane he likes him. Not putting too much emphasis on it, but still letting him know. And I just wish Shane knew how much the boring comment Ilya always makes is not really an insult. The moment breaks as Ilya's phone rings and he has to take it. It was such an important moment in the show. Seeing and hearing Ilya speaking in his native language, distraught by what's going on with his father, knowing he can't really help him. He's not in Russia with him. I absolutely loved the acting on Connor's side during that. And we also see Shane hearing everything, not understanding the language for sure, but understanding the tone of the conversation. Some things can't be hidden behind a different language. So he sits there, listening to a panicked Ilya, for sure something he's not used to. And since they're not really there yet, he can't just come up and comfort him. Another favorite moment in that scene is when Ilya stands there, trying to calm himself, shaking the stress off of him by throwing his hands in the air. In a way, he resets himself for Shane. He comes back to the couch once he's ready and plays with his hair, nervousness in him still present. And that's when Shane asks, "How's your father?" And Ilya looks at him, his eyes scanning his face, and says, "You speak Russian now?" He was a bit taken aback at that moment, maybe slightly scared that somehow Shane understood his conversation. Shane confirms he only knows the word for father, and Ilya smiles at that. He slaps Shane's leg and smoothly grabs the remote, guiding Shane on his chest, never really answering Shane's question. If not for what happens in the end, it's one of the most precious scenes. Shane with his head on Ilya's heart, Ilya stroking his hair and breathing him in, kissing the top of his head. And even though Ilya just wanted to stay like that and just be close to him, Shane decided to focus on what their relationship is about and what doesn't scare him: sex. So he gently starts stroking Ilya's thigh, first with his fingertips, then with his hand that eventually cups Ilya through his pants. He starts kissing him, starting at his chest and going down to end up mouthing him through his pants. During all of that, Ilya starts stroking his hair, touching his neck, and ends up sliding his hand up Shane's t-shirt. Well, his t-shirt on Shane's body, and stroking the muscles of his back. I love seeing Ilya's expressions during that whole scene. His face is so soft, relaxed, and so lost in the moment. The vulnerability is right there on his face. He's not just chasing a release. He's truly enjoying the intimate moment with Shane, and takes whatever Shane is willing to give. As Shane sits in his lap, Ilya holds the back of his thigh and gently touches his ass. They don't hurry, they don't change positions. They simply share this moment, slowly, together. It's especially important to Ilya since he's the one trying to be closer to Shane, more vulnerable, and treat what they have as more than just a hookup. Ilya gently touches Shane's chest and kisses him. I adore the closeness of this moment and how unrushed it is. Shane strokes Ilya's dick and soon takes out his. I like how when Shane is trying to take down his pants a little, Ilya is just looking at his face. That's also very intimate. I like that the camera focuses on the faces, because we can see just how much they're enjoying this. Ilya loves how Shane kisses all over his face, and how their faces stay glued to each other. Either their foreheads, their noses, or when they're practically breathing into each other. That was more important than I can put into words. And of course that's when we are hit with them saying each other's names. Not surnames, but actual first names. Shane. Ilya. We've all been waiting for that. And I can't tell you how many times I replayed the last two kisses they share. They are different from the ones we've seen. Soft, gentle, caring, showing what they are afraid to say out loud. But then Shane starts pulling himself away from Ilya. Not before touching his nose a few times though. Like he is fighting with himself. He wants to stay so badly, but the reality of the situation catches up to him, and he stands up, unable to speak. I mean, looking at Ilya in this moment hurts so much. His expression changes with every move Shane makes, realizing that Shane is actually going to leave. That he fucked up by saying Shane's name, and now he is going to lose him. Shane lies about forgetting a team meeting, and they both know it's bullshit. He awkwardly thanks Ilya for food and stumbles on his words as he can't exactly process what's happening. And Ilya, brokenly, extends his hand saying, Hollander, twice, to take back what he said before, hoping he can still fix it. But Shane made the decision. He leaves in Ilya's clothes, and Ilya is left there on the couch, with a broken heart and empty apartment. Rewatching that scene is a punch in the gut, honestly. Later we see Shane in a restaurant with his parents, and I like how the table is prepared for 4 people. For now they only need 3 seats, but we all know that soon they will become a family of 4. Not yet though, not yet. Shane is particularly not in the mood during this dinner, and his parents don't really know why. Well, maybe because he just realized how much Ilya means to him, and how much it hurts to reject him. And I think the mention of the Swedish princess might have been a hint that his parents are wondering about his sexuality. And now the suffering begins as JJ asks Shane to a party, and even though it looks like he doesn't want to go, he eventually shows up. And after drinking a bit, which he never does, he meets Rose Landry. And she's stunning. They chat for some time and end up holding hands on Shane's leg. You can tell Shane likes her and is happy that he might like girls after all. Soon we see Ilya finding out that Shane is dating Rose, and he is not happy. Not happy at all. We see glimpses of Shane's relationship with Rose, and how she supports him during the game. All I could think about is I wish we could see Ilya in her place, supporting Shane. I know he is his arch rival and all, but I can't help but wonder what that would have looked like. But all we get is a shot of Ilya watching Shane and Rose's pictures on TV while working out. And he has to turn it off. And he stumps his toe and anger shoots out of him. He's definitely upset about this. 2 weeks later, we see Shane right before the game with Boston. He gets a text message. He looks at his phone even though they're about to go out, because he thinks it's Ilya. They used to talk so much, and I'm sure part of Shane misses that. But it's just Rose. And to confirm Shane is thinking about Ilya, he goes to the messages he shared with him. But, as expected, there is nothing new there. During the game, we see Ilya pushing Shane against the boards, but now it's more in frustration and anger, not in a flirty way they always do it. We also see them on the benches, Shane looking into Ilya's direction a few times, and Ilya deliberately looking at the ice and avoiding Shane. He also has his back to Shane when he's bumping his team as they leave the ice. It nicely shows the contrast between the situation now and how it was before, when they were still seeing each other. Ilya is hurt, no doubt about that. Shane doesn't even know how much. I love the look we see from Ilya when he's in the bathroom staring at himself. There is so much rage and hurt transferring through his face. We don't need words to know how he feels. Normally, he would be meeting Shane after the game, but he's been left, rejected. So he decides to go out with his team and get late. And as he enters the club, we get the song that made us all go mad. Can't believe how much it fits. And much to our surprise, Shane shows up at the club too, to see his girlfriend. Rose takes Shane to the dance floor and he feels uncomfortable, but just lets it happen. He wants to be a good boyfriend. This show gives us so many moments that we can understand without words. It's incredible. For example, we see Ilya at the bar, trying to get a drink, and when he sees Miles, Rose's gay friend, he immediately knows what that means. And we also know, because Ilya has been so obsessed with Shane's relationship, that he knows who Miles is. He shouldn't know that, but he does. So when he looks at him, it clicks instantly. And Ilya turns around, knowing what he'll see next. And I love the camera movement at that moment. It stays on Ilya, and we can see him scanning the place. And only when his eyes catch what he was looking for, we jump to Shane and Rose on the dance floor. And Ilya sees how Rose has her hands all over Shane, roaming his chest under his shirt. So he breathes in deeply and orders a drink as fast as possible. Again, great camera placement choices. We see Ilya being unable to stop looking at Shane, even though it hurts. He takes a gulp of his drink and makes a face, and then moves somewhere else. At the exact moment, Shane sees Ilya's teammate in the club, realizing that Ilya must be somewhere close. He can't stop himself from looking around, even when Rose is clearly trying to get his attention. And I appreciate that they chose to place Miles behind Shane on the dance floor. It shows us how toned Shane is with his sexuality. He is very lost, standing there between their bodies. In the meantime, we see Ilya kissing and dancing with a woman on the other side of the dance floor. And, as a side note, he looks so fucking good in this shirt. But going back to the situation unfolding at the club, Shane excuses himself to the bathroom, clearly shaken by the interaction with Rose and Miles. And of course that's when he spots Ilya with the girl. We have some great editing here. Scenes jumping from Shane looking at Ilya on the dance floor, and Shane visibly confused and scared at the thought of sleeping with Rose. He's so not into her. Think about how eager he was when Ilya was going up those stairs with him. And of course Ilya is putting up a show for Shane in the club, showing him just how much he enjoys dancing with the woman. And Shane is just standing there, dumbfounded. I love Hudson's acting when he's with Rose on his bed. He's smiling politely and trying so hard to show he likes what's happening. And another diabolical editing at the end. Ilya is jerking off in the shower and coming, looking directly into the camera, while Shane looks into the camera as he's coming with Rose. Of course, they're thinking about each other. Thank you all for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show as much as I did and had fun remembering what happened following this episode. Come back next week for coverage of episode 5 and 6. Bye bye.